If you don't pay attention to anything else in the first 15 seconds, you know exactly what you're getting. Obviously, you're going to tell the story of what you're doing, but just upfront, have your one-liner, say exactly what it is that you're doing, and then, hop into your presentation. We could talk forever about what we're doing, but the important thing is when you have a limited amount of time, you've got to be very concise and clear on what you want to deliver and make sure that lands. Hello, my name is Bryant Williams. I'm the founder and CEO of Nurture Nuts Company. We're using advanced second-generation gene editing technology to remove allergens from peanuts and re-enter restricted markets. Just a couple weeks ago, I actually won first place at the IFT FIRST pitch competition in Chicago, Illinois.
Okay, well, Brian, I'm super excited about this conversation. You've become a close friend. I dream of going to Minneapolis. I didn't need a reason to go to Minneapolis before. Now I do. But it's wonderful to speak with you. You've been just killing it in the pitch competition space. I think you won something like 4. And when I think about a skill that a lot of founders need to develop, it's pitching. So, well, who could talk about pitching? Brian. So, Brian, take us through maybe some of the fundamentals of what happens before you pitch.
Yeah. Thank you for that. And this was number 4, the first one back in 2024 at Bend Venture Conference out in Bend, Oregon, then part of the Sango virtual pitch startup competition earlier this year. Summerfest Tech AI out in Milwaukee. That was back in June. And then obviously most recently this one with IFT FIRST. For pitching, I think what's exciting about this and, something that I took away from not really just any other startups, but just any company in general, is that as a CEO, you're the face of the company. You can't think of Amazon without thinking Bezos. You can't think of Facebook without thinking of Zuckerberg. So very much when people think of you or they think of, what you're doing, there has to be a face or there has to be a person that's leading it just to start off. And so with pitching and with storytelling, there's a lot that comes with that. I mean, there's representing the brand and the business, being confident, setting the culture, setting your expectations for how you want things to work. And with that element of pitching, it's a very quick and direct way to get people to buy in. And your pitch, it's going to be used for a number of different things, whether it's talking to investors, engaging with potential partners, corporates, getting new clients, getting new employees. You are always telling your story. You are always trying to generate conviction and belief in what you're doing and get people to join your team.
Amazing. So for this pitch competition, how long was the pitch itself? Was it a minute, 2, 3 minutes?
So this pitch competition, I believe we had 5 minutes. And, one thing that, I've learned, during practicing and talking with others, it's just a very helpful skill for me. And I think a pitfall that a lot of us as founders, we fall into is that we've got our projects, we got our technologies, our babies, and we love to talk about them. We could talk forever about what we're doing, but the important thing is when you have a limited amount of time, you've got to be very concise and clear on what you want to deliver and make sure that lands. So, with a 5-minute presentation pitch, I really only used about, I would say 3.5 minutes. And a big portion of that too is just really making sure that I hit the key elements. There's certainly more things I could have added in, but I think the important thing is just making sure that you've delivered your message and that it's resonating with the audience, because sometimes adding more can actually lose people. If you can deliver a nice, sweet package, present it accordingly, I think that's the best way to approach any competition or pitch.
Okay, great. So take us through the pitch, those 3.5 minutes. Maybe we'll just, as you're pitching, maybe you can stop and let us know why you're doing what you're doing. I think that would be a really great way for our listeners to guess us. Oh, okay, so that's how it's done.
Yeah, absolutely. So first starting out going into the pitch, so you just want people to know who you are. The worst thing you can do, right? You get to the end and they're like, so what is this guy or gal doing? I can't remember again. So I always start off, good morning, good afternoon. My name is Bryant Williams. I'm the founder and CEO of Nurture Nuts Company. We're using second-generation gene editing technology, using CRISPR to remove allergens from peanuts and re-enter restricted markets. Boom, right there. If you don't pay attention to anything else, maybe you got a buzz on your phone, a call, something else, whatever. At least, in the first 15 seconds, you know exactly what you're getting. And I think that that's important. Just a lot of founders, obviously, you're going to tell the story of what you're doing, but just upfront, have your one-liner, say exactly what it is that you're doing, and then, hop into your presentation.
So that one-liner for the business that you have, can you take us through that one-liner? Because it's about 12, 13 words or so, 14 words or something like that. Anything you want to unpack for us about that? Why you say it the way you say it, how you chose those words to express the value of the business?
Yeah, so that's a good question. for us, the important part, obviously, besides introducing myself, is just really saying what makes us unique, is using this advanced technology that hasn't been done before, hasn't been used in this application. So, there's plenty of other people in the space for gene editing, right? There's mRNA, there's crossbreeding, there's a number of different tools that you can use. But, specifically saying what we're doing with the technology I think is helpful without getting too far into the weeds. I don't need to go through the entire thesis or the scope of work that was completed, but just saying what makes us special or unique. And then, the idea or the approach that we have, like what is the next step to actually make it a business, entering restricted markets. So in particular, a lot of us know that peanuts used to be a number of our favorite places. This could be a school, this could be a restaurant, airline, fond memories that we used to have where we used to buy peanuts or peanut butter, or, we all at some point probably had a peanut butter and jelly sandwich for a number of different reasons. And again, people's diets change. We stopped consuming those. And a big part of that too is that because peanuts, quite frankly, aren't accessible in some of those locations. You go into a plane, you're getting crackers or some other snack. You go into school, sometimes they're completely banned. Maybe if you're lucky, they might have a separate nut table, but there's this complete social ostracization there. So re-entering restricted markets, I think really just kind of helps clarify like what our intent, what our impact is with what we're doing with our technology.
Yeah, but I love it. Okay, next step.
Yeah. So, now comes telling the problem, which I would also phrase as telling the hook. So for me, I think the really exciting thing about this, and I always want to keep this positive, is that it needs to land emotionally. And so, I'll usually start off by, there's more than 6 million Americans that suffer from peanut allergies. These are our family members, our friends, and our loved ones. We will do anything to keep them safe. And because of this, we've banned peanuts from schools, airports, and restaurants. And not only are we keeping our family members and friends safe, the reality is also, too, there's a completely separate group that can't even enjoy basic food that we once all loved. From being on our dinner tables, in our lunchrooms, to now being cast in the shadows, peanuts have faded away. I think telling the story like this makes it a little bit more surreal because everyone has a different application or use of peanuts. Like I'll say for me personally, I'm a big oatmeal fan, so I love getting my steel cut oats, throwing in some fruits, some cinnamon, and then getting a big scoop of peanut butter and throwing it in there. My brother actually really still enjoys peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. I was like, I didn't even really know that was like his thing as an adult, but he's like, yeah, do this for lunch all the time. I've spoken to athletes. I've spoken to people just busy on the go, people that love dessert, some people, I don't have hard numbers on this, but there is probably, I would say, call it anywhere from like maybe 1% to 0.5% of the population that literally eats peanut butter all the time. Like they're like, yeah, I'll go through like 2 jars in a week. It's just like a normal staple food. It's something that they love. They enjoy it. It's easy. It's affordable. And so, for them, like peanut butter is it's always a part of their normal diet. But just kind of leading with that is that like a lot of people understand that however they do consume or use it, even if they don't have peanut allergies, they're aware of someone that does have an allergy that they have to be conscious of or they have to keep safe or away from. So that's kind of the hook is that like, maybe it's not about you. Maybe it's about someone that you know or somebody that you care or even your children. And for us that have families, me personally, I don't have kids, but, I just know how important children are. And we want to keep them safe and we'll do whatever it takes to make sure that they can live out their lives and grow old and be happy.
Amazing. And I really like the fact you're kind of almost like making the peanut a human being in its own right. Like poor Peanut, Mr. Peanut. Like I haven't seen Mr. Peanut around for a long time. He's just a lonely man in the middle of some cast aside like Harry Potter underneath the stairwell. This is Mr. Peanut. So it's seeing the pain of the people, but also the pain of the peanut itself.
Absolutely. There's and a separate note. One of my favorite movies growing up was Castaway.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, pretty simple cast, right? You've got a volleyball and you got Tom Hanks. So pretty low budget.
I don't think it gets better than that, to be honest with you. I feel like I don't think you need much more than even Hanks might be extra. The volleyball isn't enough.
Yeah. And it's amazing. And you've seen that story play out, even the most recent movie, I think it was Project Hail Mary, where they're inanimate objects or they're non-human beings that people will feel emotions for. Or that they will care for in ways that they typically wouldn't. It's like, wow, I didn't know I could have, feelings for like a rock or for a tree. But that's just where we are in society is that we are much more emotionally intelligent and in tune creatures than we probably were in the past. And so, having some sort of tie in to the actual ingredient and like families were built off of peanuts and peanut butter. I mean, it was an everyday staple. And it's like, whoa, well, what happened? Like think about those times growing up. There's that nostalgia effect. So
Yeah,
that's kind of how I like to play it.
I'm with you. So I'm on the ride. That's it. I'm like, 6 million people, just the Mr. Peanut himself. What happens next?
From there, so we want to talk what the solution is. And for our company, we've done this along with our partners at AgriNetica, that we've removed the 3 clinically relevant proteins that cause the anaphylactic shock response. We've done this in the lab. We've rebuilt the peanut, and now we are working day and night, going as fast as we can to bring this to market. And so it sheds a little bit of urgency behind what we're doing, and the excitement also to the real differentiator than what we have from what's currently out in the market. A lot of people right now, when they're looking for alternative options to solve peanut allergies, I don't knock any other foods or brands, but they'll look for something with almonds, with cashews, or with some butter. And some people love them, but some people also just say like, hey, like it's not the same, and I love my peanut butter, and I just wish I could have that. And so, for us, those groups and those audiences that are looking to find a way to still enjoy that product, we're able to put something in front of them. So offering the solution, that is the big part. And that's, sharing the problem, sharing the solution. Those are like the 2 biggest upfront things that you want to do in any pitch, whether it's on stage, whether it's presenting in front of a group. Like what problem are you solving for somebody, or what joy are you bringing them?
For the solution, again, you said we remove the 3, what'd you call them? The 3?
3 clinically relevant proteins.
The 3 clinically relevant proteins that cause basically this problem. So basically we just cut those out with our partners. We've succeeded to do that on a lab scale, and now we're in field trials, right? Something like that.
Correct. And I mean, there's a little bit further in the presentation, but just sharing more about the company. What's exciting for us is that in the next few weeks, actually, we're going to be having our first harvest, our peanuts, which is going to be pretty exciting. We'll begin processing those into a number of other initial peanut products, creating some samples and doing a few different things with those. But again, getting a little bit more. This doesn't all fit into the presentation, but just having people understand kind of where things are at is that we are right at the precipice of not only really creating like some of our first like true product samples and mock-ups, but like creating history. Is that like once this momentum starts and builds and starts to get out into the market, it's going to create a life of its own.
Love it. Okay, great.
So go ahead.
Yeah. So what's the next stage?
So after talking about the problem and solution, we really just want to say how big this market, the opportunity is, because certainly like we all have some sort of relationship with this peanut butter space and industry. But for us, really wanting to quantify that. And so I try to do this in a few different ways. So I don't want to get over my skis and miss where we're at. But, we start off specifically focusing on the United States, and specifically the TAM, SAM, and SOM. And so, in the US, we're just under $2 billion in, the peanut butter market. But if you specifically dial in and focus into that food service, those restricted markets that I mentioned, we believe we can capture up to $200 million of that business. And, certainly believe we can capture more, but, just being very realistic with our expectations and projections with our current stage. Now, with those numbers also, I don't want to miss either, and I do add this in the presentation, is that our product touches a number of secondary audiences and groups. So if you think about the beverage space, you think about confectionery, snack food, desserts, baked goods, you add all this up, it really is over $1 trillion opportunity. And I do mention that in the presentation because for us, our starting point is really just to break out into those spaces. As we continue to grow, we're going to realize that we're going to be opening up opportunities and parts of markets that didn't previously exist. What's fun, I like to share and say, and fun fact for the audience, I used to be a power lifter. I don't know if you ever fully retire, but a big portion of that audience and group consumes a significant amount of whey protein. And in that space, just in terms of available options, chocolate is probably 80 to 90% of your flavor choices. I mean, if you could introduce a peanut butter flavored whey protein option that doesn't have the allergens, I mean, that's huge, massively significant. And so some of the big players that are out there that are in the whey protein space, this is going to open doors for them that never previously existed.
So what I'm hearing there is it's essentially the peanut butter market currently is at $2 billion. And we think that we could expand that market by targeting restricted spaces, right? So there's much more how this market could be. It could be applied towards restricted spaces. It could be in the new flavor compounds of beverages of foods in supplement. Right, so these are all new markets that we can open up as soon as you're able to take care of their allergen limitation.
Absolutely. I speak to a few different folks that, that were interested in our product. Is that, I mean, you could call it category creation. The category used to exist, right? We used to use peanuts and peanut butter and all sorts of different items, and then we pulled it away. But to bring it back or to rewrite that story about like how peanuts should be used in those spaces, is very exciting. It reminds me, we talked a little bit. I did a family trip to Alaska last week, and there are still very much some parts of Alaska that feel like people have yet to set foot on some of these mountains and islands. And like, imagine if you could rebuild a space, a community, a town that, isn't previously influenced by anything else in the world. And it's kind of that approach too, with kind of like how we're viewing product, like getting back into that beverage space, where like, we can set the tone of like, like how that's going to come back in. Like, coffee is obviously one of the top beverages in the world. And, having peanut butter varieties, or, maybe doing some unique and special things. Shout out to Reese's Peanut Butter Cup, still the number one candy in America. Like how much more accessible could that be, and safer could it be if you're able to use a product like ours? So it opens up so many different opportunities for folks.
What's next in the pitch?
So after the total addressable market, we've talked about kind of like how much is currently available. Or that we can capture. And we then talk a little bit about the products. So getting back into different areas, like peanut butter is peanut butter, but we can package it in a number of different ways. The business model, how do we make money? We'll have quick serve options, which could be like 1 to 2 ounce, like serve cups. You can do pails anywhere from 5 to 30 pounds, or you can do large scale drums up to 220. There are some special nuances with that too. Getting peanut butter pumps. We used to use them in the past in my previous corporate R&D career. But, there's a number of different ways that people use peanut butter. And then, after the peanut butter focus, then we talk about the secondary products with doing different things with roasted nuts, peanut oil, peanut flour, so on, and et cetera. So, and, just making it very clear and direct is like, hey, like this is how we plan on making money, is that we want to be an ingredient supplier for these folks so they can use our product in different items.
And then ingredient could be applied towards like single packs, food and beverage service, large scale manufacturing applications, right? Clear? What's the next thing after that?
After that, really, it's just talking about where we're at today, which is establishing our scientific credibility. So, we currently have clinical trials that are underway. I'm excited to share that we should have results soon before the end of the year. And then also continuing to gain partners. So the big part of this is with any new technology, I tell people, is that there's always early adopters and late followers. And for something to be accepted, widely or as easily as possible, you want to make it as trustworthy and as proven to a number of different groups, whether that's the left brain with like hard data and numbers, graphs, research and science, and then the right brain also too with stories, with proof, with content, with different groups and influencers saying like, hey, this is something that changes our life. So we talk about our go-to-market with where we're currently at too.
And again, if you take that go-to-market, is that the party saying, hey, we have 2 pathways for that? Or is it, how would that sound in the pitch? I speak with founders raising every day, and they're all telling me the same thing. It's harder than ever to find investors who are actually deploying. And getting access to those leads takes time. Founders just don't have. Every month fundraising is a month burning runway. This is why we created FTW Plus, a community of founders actively fundraising. The world's most accurate agri-food tech investor database, plus connecting you directly to ideal target investors and a community of support and accountability. Guaranteed results or your money back. Apply today at www.joinftw.com/hub.
Yeah. So in the pitch, I would present as where we're at today. For our go-to-market strategy, we want to build a early cohort pilot of customers. This would be select schools, restaurants looking to get our product into their shelves in front of their customers and gaining feedback on how we're approaching things. As we're doing this, we're also building strategic partnerships, working with large food producers and manufacturers working with their R&D teams behind the scenes to start building some of the early products. As we continue to scale and grow and increase our volume, we'll be able to supply them as well too, and have dedicated customers for their new items that they're launching.
Awesome. Okay. And just because we have just a few minutes, first of all, this is super fascinating. And anything you can also add, just because I think this is really crucial for preparation. Right? Because I think that's you do the session in a good way. Like, how do you prepare? How do you deal with your nerves? I think that you also received some coaching in the past as well. Like, you invested money into getting better in the skill.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think it was funny. This was my, for the audience listeners that are in the sports athletic space. There's always a welcome to the league moment, what they'll call it, or welcome to like being a founder. And as I was engaging, getting building up for my first pitch competition at Ben Venture Conference, I was surrounded by at least 20, 30 other founders, and I got to see their companies and how they presented and they pitched. Some of them were very seasoned, and I was like, "Whoa! Like this is like the expectation. Like these are what the pros are doing. Like the elite, like the Hall of Fame founders. I'm like, these guys are amazing. I need to get on that level." And so, like once I saw what they did, I mean, obviously I spoke to them. I had some coaches as well too that helped me. But literally go into the mirror, and it was going to be. I would set timers, 30 minutes, just talk to myself and like just give pitch over and over. And then I would do the same pitch, sitting on a couch, close my eyes, over and over. I would do it in front of friends and family members, just continuing always to gain feedback on like, hey, should I say this? How does this sound? Like, does this make sense? And like as you're doing that over and over, you're going to perfect your craft. I will say too, just a few quick notes on preparing. One thing is just know your audience. There's one thing to present in front of a room full of PhDs versus, buyers versus, other founders versus investors. Like each different group is going to have or want to hear different things. So make sure you're feeding them kind of what they're looking for. One other item also too is just do some research on your judges or your audience that you're presenting in front of. In particular for IFT, did some background work on the judges, knew kind of what they were interested in or their past experiences. And when you're pitching, just don't feel like you have to rush. Like slow down. You have more time than you realize. And I've seen a lot of people do this where it's like, oh, I have all these things I want to say. They start talking faster. Their heart rate starts going up. And you can tell in the audience, it's like, okay, like they're trying to squeeze everything in because they're trying to land the plane. And that's an important thing too, is that, when you get towards the end, I've seen people not manage their time correctly and they go over and it's like, hey, like once you get past that halfway point, try to think in your mind what you want to say and figure out how you're going to go home, like land the plane, like let's wrap it up.
In terms of just any resources from a book standpoint that you've also had, you also say you had coaches as well. Anything else that you found to be really practical in your approach? And then maybe a minute on how do you land the plane? Like, what does the last 20-second look like of your pitch?
Yeah. So this is the last part is, and I always say this. And so, for my audience listeners, feel free to borrow this. I love this line. And so, yeah, coming towards the end, like, ladies and gentlemen, I've shared a lot of information with you, but the most important thing that I'm missing is you. We're looking for real partners. We're looking for people that want to join us on this journey and help impact the world and put an end to food or peanut allergies. So I think like the ask, putting it in there, but also making everyone listen, feel like they're a part of this, and kind of like a dramatic pause that, like, if you were zoning out or you're trying to process and digest all this information, just feel like, hey, like I need something from you. And you maybe you're a college student, maybe you're a new founder, maybe you're a seasoned vet in the industry, maybe you know somebody that should hear what we're doing. You can always gain something from everybody that's listening to your pitch, and maybe they can introduce you to someone. They might even write you a check, but always make sure you have an ask and tell them how they can help support you, or at a minimum, they can just follow you on social media.
Amazing. I think that's actually the perfect way to end this conversation, because I usually ask what do you need for the next 6 to 12 months. And I feel like that was the perfect way to end it right there. I've shared a lot with you, but the only thing that's missing is you. So, Brian, my friend, it's been really a pleasure to have this conversation with you. Congratulations on your big wins. Just to be specific to our audience, what do you need in the next 3 to 6 months, 9 months? If I'm listening to this and I want to help Brian, what's Brian's needs are at the moment?
Yeah, absolutely. So have a lot of really exciting things happening before the close of the year. Got our first harvest coming out. We're going to be publishing results, getting in front of a number of different groups. I can't share this on the call today, but We're hearing back, I believe it'll be next week, from one of the groups that we've been speaking to, a potential new partner, which is going to be really exciting. But, a big thing for us is that we want to get the word out. We want to spread. We're looking for people that are intentional about ending food allergies. This can be corporates, that are wanting to get involved on the grassroots and be involved with trying to build out something very unique and special. And, we're looking to do a raise soon too. So, if you're an investor and you're interested in, taking a peek at some of the more things that we have going on, please reach out. Pretty accessible. Shoot me a message on LinkedIn or Bryant@nurturednuts.com. Send me an email.
Amazing. Thanks, my friend. Such a pleasure to speak with you.
Likewise, Alex.
One more thing. Don't close this episode yet. If you got value from this conversation, here's what I need from you. A 5-star rating, 1 comment, 20 seconds of your time. That's the deal. A 5-star rating means more founders find this content, and every time a founder raises, all boats are elevated. Every week, I pick one random comment and send that person a complimentary copy of Investment Climate, the book. 50 sales playbooks from founders who actually raise money during the fundraising winter. Real strategies, real closes, real numbers, not theory. So if you want a copy, comment below, and if you haven't followed the show yet, do that too. And if there's a guest you want us to bring on the show, just drop us a note or send us an email. We'll read each and every one. Until then, keep on raising.